So Terry Hashimoto here with Dr. Sashel McKenzie at St. FX University in Antigonish, Nova Scotia. And today we're going to ask a question that a lot of our BodiTrak users are asking. Dr. Sashel, how do you explain what we measure and what are the differences between vertical forces and center of mass?
Okay, that's an important question. I would say what is the difference between, maybe clarify it a little bit and say what is the difference between center of pressure movement patterns and center of mass movement patterns. Okay, so what the mat does is it measures the average spot that we're applying a vertical force to the ground, and it measures that a whole bunch of times during the swing. So that's what we end up with the trace you see in the screen. So it's maybe intuitive to want to associate that center of pressure trace moving to the left with me moving to the left. But that's not the case. That would be how my center of mass is moving. In order to figure that out, we need to know the horizontal forces, which the mat doesn't pick up. So they're very different things. The mat picks up vertical forces. We find out how the average place that vertical force is acting moves around underneath us, which is different than center of mass. And I think the best way to demonstrate that is I do a little example, maybe showing that on the map. Yeah. So if I hit the live button here, what I'm going to demonstrate is a shot where my center of pressure trace will, from the back of the swing, move straight forward. So you may have the intuition to interpret that as I'm moving straight forward. But what I'm going to demonstrate here is that I can actually do that. So I'm going to have my center of pressure trace move to my back foot in the backswing, but then have it shoot straight forward in the forward swing. Okay, and I'll get Terry to work the computer, so clearly you can see I'm not even on the screen, but if we replay that.
We're going to go straight back to the address position, and we're going to advance it frame by frame by frame.
So what you can see is definitely, if Terry pauses it right there, you can see, hey, this looks like a normal golf shot so far. I have moved my center of pressure trace back, as well as my center of mass. So a lot of times it can coincide, which leads one to believe that maybe they're the same thing, but they are not, as you will see right now. So I am going to, from this point, push really hard off of my my right foot, my front foot. So Terry, you just hover with the mouse cursor for 1 second over my right foot on the video screen there, if you can find the mouse cursor.
Right there.
Pressure. Yeah, right there. So right now I'm starting to push really hard off that foot. And so you're going to see that average spot that I'm applying vertical force to the ground, that white dot that Terry's going to go to right now with the cursor, that white dot in the center of pressure trace, that is going to start to move towards that foot. So if he advances a few more frames, yep, keep going, and right there. Now I'm really pushing hard off of that foot. And at this point, you'd still say, hey, this is actually maybe not going to be a bad golf swing. It's maybe not a terrible golf swing, but it's not going to give the result of my center of mass as you would anticipate. So if we keep moving that forward, you'll notice it's staying on my front foot, but yet I am going to go, and if he pauses it right there, clearly this center of pressure has to be underneath my front foot. My trail foot's not even on the ground. And so what's going to happen now is my center of mass has already started to move backwards. It's going to continue to move backwards as Terry advances forward. Clearly I'm going to continue to go out of the screen, but that center of pressure is staying on my front foot until I leave the mat right there. But clearly my center of mass is moving backwards while the center of pressure trace is moving forwards. If we wanted to understand what was going on with my center of mass, then we need to measure my center of mass in terms of how it's going to move horizontally. Then we need to measure horizontal forces. And that's not what the mat picks up. Okay, so just to follow up on that last demonstration, which isn't really what you would see someone typically doing in a golf swing on the course, we're going to show you kind of a contrasting scenario. I happen to have a particular type of center of pressure trace where my center of pressure moves towards my back foot during the downswing. Okay? Now that doesn't mean that I have some sort of inhibition to get onto my lead side. It's just indicating which foot that I'm applying the most vertical force with. So I'm going to go ahead and hit a shot here. And we'll just review the trace, and I'll explain what's going on with the trace. Okay. Now, I'm not the greatest golfer in the world, but there are lots of golfers much better than me who would have a somewhat similar center of pressure trace pattern. So, at address, not too bad, about 50-50, and then I move to my back foot, and then I'm definitely a bit of a jumper, so I definitely get the weight out towards my toes. We're not going to particularly look at that one, but so initially on the downswing, yeah, my weight's going to start to shift. My center of pressure is going to start to shift towards my front foot. And I'll get Terry just to advance it right to the furthest point, right, one more frame, right there. So right now, this is typical of most golfers, regardless of the particular pattern at this point in the swing, their center of pressure shifting towards their front foot, okay? Now, what you're going to see is, even though we don't have the graph, I could pull it up, but you can see it on the video, my center of mass, me, is still going to continue to move towards the target. Okay, it's still going to move towards my lead side. Why, though, if Terry goes 2 or 3 frames, look at that center of pressure trace moving all the way towards my back foot, towards my toe? Well, remember, the center of pressure trace is showing the average location of the vertical force application. So, and for me, for my swing, in order to get into a position where I'm continuing to move my center of mass towards my lead side, I am actually, at that point in the swing, pushing harder off my trail foot downwards than I am off my lead foot. So hence, the center of pressure trace is going to move back, indicating that I'm pushing down firmer with this one. But that is in an effort to get over to my lead side. So that's why you see it shoot all the way back to my front foot. And now, I'm going to start to go into a finished position with my weight onto my lead side, because my center of mass is going to continue to move forwards. Okay? And at this point, in my mind, you can argue which type of center of pressure trace is good or bad, but that's something I'm going to wait until the studies are over before I make any decisions.
And I hope that helps you understand the difference between center of pressure and center of mass. Terry Hashimoto with Dr. Sasha McKenzie, St. FX, Antigonish, Nova Scotia.